any type of wrestling news that is a bed, like a hotbed for discussion. That's what we're going to do here in the first hour of the show. And when we come to the second hour, we'll be talking Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, NXT UK, what we thought of the shows, and give you guys our honest opinions on it. And if you guys want to put in your opinions in the chat who are watching this live right now on Twitch, be sure you do so, and we'll read it out loud for the sake of the people who are watching this on YouTube. So I got to say, first off, we have to start with what seems to be the topic of all topics right now is the debut of the new gimmick of Bray Wyatt and the Firefly Funhouse. Now, for those of you who have yet to see me and Ashley's reactions to that when we saw it live on Monday Night Raw, the video of it is up on YouTube. But now that we've had several days to basically kind of let this kind of sink in, what are your thoughts about what they're doing right now with Bray Wyatt?
I love it. It's what I wouldn't say it's what Bray should have done, but it's a very good evolution from where it's still got the creepiness factor to it, but it's also sort of entertaining because of how wacky it is. And because at first when we saw the box thing, and then, the laughing Annabelle Page doll, over the past couple of weeks, I was like, oh my God, is this what they're doing? It looked to be basically just a different way of introducing the same character. But the character has evolved somewhat, even though the themes of, being sinister is clearly still there. I approve. I can't wait to see where it goes over the upcoming weeks.
Days, do you think that we as not only the wrestling fans, but people like us who, we're considered to be, smart marks or smarks, do you think that we need to give this new gimmick more time to kind of develop, in a sense? Because what I'm saying is we've only seen essentially the inception, I would say, of what they want to do now with Bray Wyatt. We really haven't seen them try to develop this yet. Do you think we need to give this more time for this character to develop for Bray Wyatt?
Absolutely. He's only really cut the one promo, and you can't be quick to jump to judgment on it. It does still have the creep factor of the Bray Wyatt character, but what else could it possibly bring to the table is the question.
And yes, and
you can't find that out without watching.
And not only that, but I want to say is, can this gimmick work for Bray Wyatt? And I think the only thing we could really say is only time will tell. Because it's met with quite a lot of, I want to say, unusual responses, mixed responses from the, quote, WWE universe when it comes to it. I'm actually now looking forward to Raw and SmackDown next week to see what are they going to do next. What's going to be the next promo? And not only that, but what show would Bray Wyatt be delegated to? Would it be on Raw or SmackDown? Because we saw the promos on both Raw and SmackDown this past week. And speaking of, people not making up their minds, apparently there was a little bit of shifting of superstars this past week. Apparently nothing was really set on stone.
You did say shifting, right?
Yeah, I said shifting. SHIFT. And because apparently
you did say shifting, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I made sure I said shifting.
It sounded a little like something else. I was getting a little concerned.
I know, but it's the redneck accent. You think I would have known by now, actually. How long have you known me? But anyway,
2 years.
Well, after the Superstar Shakedown last week, we were kind of left wondering what's going to be happening, one, with the status of the mid-card titles, because after last week's SmackDown Live and Monday Night Raw. Essentially, both the United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championship were on one show. So they kind of left us wondering, what are they going to do? How are they going to put, how are they going to put a mid-card title back on Monday Night Raw? And then just blew out of nowhere. They shifted and moved some stars back to SmackDown and moved some stars to Monday Night Raw. And one of those stars in particular was Samoa Joe, as we saw on this past week's Monday Night Raw. So that now means officially that the United States Championship is back on Monday Night Raw. Now, however, there's been a bit of talk, bit of discussion about some of the other superstars, in particular, moving to SmackDown, in particular, Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega moving back to SmackDown Live. And there are several reasons why a lot of people have been discussing this. I know, one, a lot of people think that it's got something to do with his relationship with Charlotte Flair. Apparently, Charlotte Flair, being a member of the Flair family, well, she does have some pull. But then again, there's also the story involving Fox, and I think you want to talk a little bit about that, don't you, Ash? And how are you doing, Never?
Yeah, because it's unclear, because it's like, some people have said that it's Charlotte with the sway that she's got because of their relationship that her and Andrade are having at the minute. But the other report, which seems maybe just as likely, is Fox is looking to have some sort of Latin American talent beyond their product, because the idea is they want that person to be promoted heavily on Fox Deportes, which is the Spanish language Fox channel. And considering how over he was, Andrade, when he was masked in CMLL, I would say that's actually a smart move for marketing. Regardless of whether it was anything to do with relationship.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard not to put, that together, because that's probably what a lot of people think of at first. They know that, since WrestleMania 35, Charlotte and Andrade went public with their relationship. By the way, Never, I don't believe I do have a sub-command. If you want to make one, you are more than welcome to. But as far as I know, I don't have a sub-command for chat. And a lot of people, like I said, days since they've gone public with their relationship, they're gonna immediately think, the whole reason, that they want Andrade went back to SmackDown is, so because of Charlotte Flair. But, I don't know. What do you think of this situation?
I tend to lean towards what Ash was saying. Besides the fact I don't really understand why he would have came back to try to destroy Finn Balor. It doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. I more so lean towards he did it because Charlotte Flair pulled some strings for him.
It's feasible. It's definitely that, and we'll talk a little bit more about what happened on SmackDown Live in the second hour of the show. And like I said before, guys, we talk more than just WWE. We talk a lot of stuff, and it was recently announced for All Elite Wrestling at their All In show that it's going to be the American Nightmare Cody taking on Dustin Rhodes. And one of the reasons why I bring this up is due to the fact that on social media this past week, Facebook and Twitter, on Dustin's Facebook and Twitter, he posted a video of him basically symbolically saying goodbye to the Goldust character and locking it up in a trunk. A mannequin painted up to look like Goldust with the Goldust gear, the ties, the gloves, the robes, everything, and him basically just closing the trunk on that part of his career. And actually, one could say and possibly argue that if it wasn't for the inception of the Goldust character in the World Wrestling Federation, that Dustin's career right now might not be where it is today.
No, it's certainly possible. The the evolution that he did felt perfect for the Attitude Era. And I'm surprised he's gone as far as retiring the gimmick, because obviously that'd be worth quite a bit on the convention scene, I would say. But yeah, I hope all goes well in AEW. It should do. Because it does look like, if it's done right, he'll be perfect for sort of them and what they're planning to do over the upcoming weeks and months, maybe years if it gets that far.
Now, Days, what are the possibilities of us seeing him? I'm talking about Dustin Rhodes coming out as the natural Dustin Rhodes. Now, would he legally be able to do something like that in AEW?
It would depend. Does Vince own the rights to that character?
I'd have thought probably not, considering
that was something he did before he went to WWE.
Yeah, and I don't know whether they have it via getting WCW and whether they even continued it on.
So yeah, it's possible he could come out as the natural. I don't see it being the most likely situation, but it's very possible.
Now, a lot of people want AEW to be WWE's next big, I want to say, threat or challenge to their promotion. As it stands right now, do they have the star power, the talent, and the know-how to be WWE's, next big competitor?
I mean, maybe. It's hard to tell because we haven't really seen anything from AEW yet. We're just basically going off what happened with All In. It's hard to sort of give an actual sort of, well, this is what's definitely going to happen. Because I don't think they're trying to be too predictable in their, stuff. The fact that we have a gimmick of, who's going to be the librarian gimmick between a man and a woman, so we're clearly indicating some intergender stuff. I don't know. We'll see.
Now, if AEW does bring bring the star power and actually does become a credible threat to WWE days, do you see them basically Vince now pulling his head out of his rear end and saying, we need to do something to improve our product because we now have a credible threat in AEW threatening us when it comes to our business, our brand?
It may eventually get to that point, but like Ash said, they basically just built the foundation at this point. We ain't really seen what kind of product they're going to put out, whether they have good people behind the scenes writing good stories and all that. That's going to be a time will tell type deal. So it might be a few years down the road before we even really see if they can compete with WWE.
Well, speaking of not wanting to compete with WWE, interesting segue there, but there are a lot of people right now who are basically very unhappy right now with Vince McMahon and what WWE's been doing with their careers. Two people in particular, Sasha Banks and Luke Harper. Sasha Banks is what the rumor mills have been saying has been having a huge problem with Vince McMahon, especially over the fact when she learned the news that her and Bayley were dropping the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania, even to the point where there were rumors saying that there was she and Bayley did a lay-down protest after their match in the locker room area. I don't know, how credible the report is. I haven't found anything to validate, that report. But again, if people float rumors, people are going to talk. And now what people right now are saying about Sasha Banks is that she's so upset with what WWE is doing now with women's wrestling. There's supposed to be a big women's evolution, and we'll talk a little bit more about the women's matches we saw on Raw and SmackDown, which might, justify Banks' current position of wanting to sit out the rest of her contract. And she's basically, I think she's come out and said that she's willing to sit out the rest of her contract because she's that upset with what WWE is doing right now with women's wrestling. Because right now, in my mind, they have the star power to have great women's wrestling, and I don't understand, Ash, why Vince just doesn't see what a gold mine he has. And I'm not just talking about the Asukas, the Kairi Sanes, the Io Shirai's. I'm talking about, Ember Moon, Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, the Iconics when they're worked properly. Women like that who actually know how to get in the ring and put on a good, credible match. And I just don't understand why Vince doesn't see any value in that type of a product.
Well, in all honesty, we know that Vince isn't great at other stuff. If you look up a lot of the success stuff that's been with that company, it hasn't really been anything to do with him. It's been with a certain Paul Levesque. That's been the key factor, I would say. And there's all these reports saying that when the XFL officially comes to fruition, down the line, think like February next year after the Super Bowl?
I think so.
Once we get to that, that'll be his focus of attention. He will not be bothered with focusing on the wrestling because he's desperate for a sporting league to be damn successful. And the only way that's going to happen at the minute is if the XFL does well. And considering how its nearest competition, AAL or something like that, went under about a week or two ago. That's going to be his main focus. So, in all honesty, it depends how much Stephanie wants to be like a Vince role or rely more on her husband, be able to gauge who the right people are, and, in all honesty, get the right writing crew in. Because I don't think the writing that was done was as crisp as it could have been over recent months, years, however you want to look at it.
I would have to agree. And I've said it for the longest time, especially when I was doing my span of YouTube review videos, is NXT, in my personal mind, NXT and NXT UK have been the saving grace for WWE. If anything, if you want to watch what the product should be right now in WWE, you have to watch NXT and NXT UK. But then the question becomes, how you doing, Scarlett? The question then becomes, can Triple H days take the formula of success that he has applied in NXT and NXT UK and apply that to the main roster of Raw and SmackDown?
I don't see no reason why he couldn't. He has a better feel for what is good for the wrestling business in this generation. Vince is out of touch. Vince has been out of touch with female wrestling for years. Triple H has a better grasp on it, and he can take it to a whole nother level if he's just given the opportunity, I think, anyway.
Keep in mind as well, with Bruce Pritchard being brought in, back in the day, whether he's changed his mind on some of this stuff, I don't know. But certainly back in the day when women's wrestling wasn't as focused as this, and wasn't given as much time despite like being the era of Trish and Mickey, sort of people like that. So whether that's having an effect on the fact that we're not getting the sort of same focus now that we were as early as last time round, I guess we can hope.
Yeah, where Van Bro says, I'm doing all right, just going to type up some recipes or attempt to every day. Hey, just keep at it, Rose. That's all I'm going to say. But another person who's basically right now wanting to get out of his contract in WWE has been Luke Harper. He's even gone out on his social media Twitter page and publicly announced that he's attempting to he's asked for his release from WWE, because right now, there's really nothing for him. They kind of broken up what could have been probably one of the best runs he's had with him and Rowan as the Bludgeon Brothers, when they moved Rowan over to Daniel Bryan, who apparently has still out since WrestleMania 35. So that kind of leaves Rowan's status up in the air for what they're going to be doing with him. And it was just one of the stories that I saw today, Ashley, is not only are they not granting Luke Harper's request for a release, but they're also extending his contract?
Yeah. Apparently this can be done because they're independent contractors. The deal is the time that he took off for the surgery that he had to repair his injuries for those few months at the start of this year, amongst maybe some of the other time, they're adding another 6 months onto his contract for that time out. So, therefore, meaning he can't leave until maybe around after WrestleMania, and then depending on whether that would then count towards or against the non-compete clause, it might not be till at least maybe June or July next year, 2020, that he'll be able to wrestle for somebody else.
So the question now becomes, Days, for Luke Harper is, do you see them using him on Raw or SmackDown anytime soon?
Honestly, with the way he's talking out and saying negative things about the WWE not wanting to release him, probably not. They'll probably just let him sit there and stew the rest of the time they have him under contract.
The interesting thing is, if you look at his approach, it's very similar to Dillinger, and they let Dillinger go. It's not as similar as... The key thing I saw somewhere is difference with that and what happened with Goldust. Is Goldust never said anything bad about the company. As in, he wasn't saying anything about not being happy about the way he was booked, which we know Harper did. So basically, the moral of the story is, don't slag off the company, either publicly or privately via the dirt sheets finding out about it. Otherwise, you're going to be in handcuffs with your contract, and you ain't going to be able to get out of them. Sent no Houdini.
Well, Ash, what else is there in the news for us to talk about?
Well, I guess the big thing I would say is the actual financials came out today for the first quarter of the year, which Vince is claiming to the issues with it being to the fact that 15 top and mid-card talents were out injured. The quote we've got here was, when you don't have talent, you don't have storylines. When you don't have storylines, you're not going to do that well in terms of live events and television ratings. It was like a cascade of things that happened. Basically, revenue for this quarter was down 3% compared to Q1 of 2018, mainly due to lower merch sales and lower ticket sales overall. Live event revenue, so that obviously doesn't include the Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views and whatever, was actually down 15% year over year. And consumer products were also down 11%. The network figures are roughly staying at the same, about 1.5 to 1.6 paid, and then roughly about 2 million in total. So at least a quarter of them are still using free trials. How many of them are real free trials? I don't know. The big thing they did mention though as well, the partnership they've got with Endeavor, who do the UFC Fight Pass stuff, that looks to be whatever the new network 2.0 is going to be. Basically new features and functionality, i.e. the rumored tiered system for, being able to pay more money to get extra content and whatever. It's also worth mentioning that there was no reference to Saudi at all, any shows or any plans. They also said that they're going to be a big part of Fox and USA's TV upfronts when they get unveiled in a few weeks. So maybe Stephanie and Roman go face to face with Cody and the Young Bucks backstage at these presentations. I don't know how those presentations work, because I don't even know if they're actually done to the public.
Now, as we get closer and closer and closer to the time in October when Fox acquires SmackDown Live for their network, what kind of changes, if any, do you feel that WWE has to make if they want to basically have a good viable show on Fox, and how much of that will be influenced by the Fox network as well?
Fox, considering how much Fox paid for it, they're going to be wanting it to deliver. But WWE, I think, again, this was in the conference call, they've said that there will be key advertising during NFL games, because I think, is it Fox do the Thursday games?
They do that and Sunday. They do that and Sunday. They'll
be doing it in that. They'll be doing it in the NASCAR and also the Major League Baseball. They'll be showing. Obviously, the baseball at that time will be close to sort of playoffs time. But I guess they're talking in the future when the new season starts. Around WrestleMania time. In terms of what else we might see, I would not be surprised if Fox want 3 hours somewhere down the line, if it's enough of a viewers, because this is sort of unparalleled territory. Because WWE's never been on free to access television properly on a weekly basis. Okay, you've had the Saturday night main events on NBC here and there, but it's not been 52 weeks a year content on that same channel.
Yeah, but if it goes to, say, supposedly a 3-hour show, that would mean that WWE creatively would have to write on a weekly basis for 2 3-hour shows back to back. That's assuming that when Fox acquires SmackDown Live, that they keep it on Tuesday nights. How much of a...
No, they aren't, are they?
They're not?
We know that Fox is putting it Fridays.
On Fridays. Okay, well, again, scratch my next question then. But
Yeah, for at least for the early part, it's Fridays. The problem with that is, at the minute, Friday night is their comedy night, which previously has not been very good. The problem is because now they now have the rights to Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The viewership for the comedy night has gone up quite considerably, and the concern is, if they move that to another night to accommodate for WWE, will that get the same amount of viewership? And in turn, will the viewership that they get from the wrestling be as good or substantially better than what they're getting at the minute with the comedy?
Dave,
The issue being, the numbers are about double what Raw is getting on a weekly basis right now. So would the numbers double to the same level as like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and all that are over there, because it's on free access television rather via cable? Or is it just going to be a mess?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine is actually on NBC.
Oh, is it NBC? There was something on Fox. I don't know what the big show.
It was on Fox. Brooklyn Nine-Nine was on Fox, but they got canceled and NBC bought it.
Oh, right.
The comedies they have on Fridays right now is Last Man Standing with Tim Allen. And then they have a show called Cool Kids that's got Martin Mull, David Allen,
right,
and 2 other people in it.
That's why I'm getting confused. But what it is, they've certainly stressed that the comedy stuff at the minute is doing better for them than it has done previously. Which is weird, because Brooklyn Nine-Nine was one of the shows that was mentioned quite a bit, even though they don't actually have. Then again, of course, with all the Fox stuff, technically all the Disney stuff could be on there now, because of all that deal. Even though the station is separate to Fox, all the programming on it technically is Disney Fox. Huh?
Now, would it make it easier for today's wrestling fan when the SmackDown goes to Fox and then move it to Fridays? Would it make it easier on them to basically watch the product and enjoy it, even if SmackDown does become a 3-hour program instead of, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown on Tuesdays, and then there's NXT on Wednesdays, and so on and so forth? You kind of get what I'm saying? Would that not tire out the wrestling fan and keep them interested in the product when it moves over to Fox and they move it on to Fridays? Whether or not it becomes a 3-hour show.
It all depends on the creative.
Yeah, the spacing will help it a little bit. The issue, though, being it will make... I guess it... Well, I wasn't going to say it was going to make it worse. But I'm guessing the angle now will be that SmackDown will be on a Friday, going into sort of like WrestleMania week, which then I guess Hall of Fame might go Thursday with NXT on Saturday. Maybe. Or maybe do the Hall of Fame actually the following Tuesday after WrestleMania, but then that's... I don't know. The idea is that the thinking ahead for that sort of thing, especially for when we get to Survivor Series, is... Obviously, it's easier for Survivor Series because you haven't got the other stuff. But Friday will be SmackDown, Saturday will be NXT, Sunday will be Survivor Series, and Monday will be Raw. So it will actually be sort of a 4-day weekend.
Well, I think appropriately, the last thing to talk about before we get into the week in review here on the show is the upcoming pay-per-view this weekend for Impact Wrestling. Ashley, want to tell us a little bit about it?
Impact Wrestling. I don't remember the name. Rebellion. Impact Wrestling Rebellion. There it is. From Toronto, Canada, which I've heard is a place. So at the Rebel Complex. Please don't tell me Rebel's going to be there. Please don't tell me Rebel's going to
Rebel Sky? No, that's Freebie Sky. Sorry.
No Rebel. The woman had that awesome match with Shelly Martinez. It was voted by most people as the worst match of 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Thanks, Dixie. So I don't think we've got the full matches yet, because obviously the final episode of television airs Friday. And this being Thursday, it complicates issues.
Yeah.
To work that out. But the card that we've got already is actually pretty stacked. Taya Valkyrie versus Jordan Grace for the Knockouts title. There's the possibility that that could become a triple threat with Madison Rayne now, but we'll see. Rich Swann versus Sami Callihan for the X Division title. Although it seems like Sami wants it to be personal, so it might become some sort of hardcore style match. Which will obviously suit Sami. Gail Kim versus Tessa Blanchard. And Gail Kim, I thought you retired. Oh God, you're as bad as Undertaker / Shawn Michaels / Ric Flair / insert talent. Well, no, guess more Terry Funk now. Well, no, Gail Kim's only come out of retirement once so far, so it's not a Funk.
She's also better looking than all of those people.
That's your opinion.
Damn right.
People might get the hots for Terry Funk. I don't know.
If people got the hot for Terry Funk, they need to get off the drugs they're on.
Wow, you just made Terry Funk's wife feel real bad. Jeez. The Lucha Brothers defending their World Tag Titles against LAX in a Full Metal Mayhem match. Because we can't call it TLC. And then Johnny Impact, the guy that's been face and then all of a sudden has been heel for the last month because Austin Aries fucking ruined it. Taking on Brian Cage for the world title. However, Lance Storm is a special guest referee. Because Canada?
I suppose
I
so.
don't know.
So, Dave, based on hearing that card, do you think that Rebellion is a show worth watching?
It depends on your taste. For me, it would be something I'd like to watch, but diehard wrestling fan. But for most, probably not, because Impact Wrestling, in my opinion, has kind of fallen off in the last few years.
I think it's fallen off ever since they left Spike TV and then put Dixie Carter in charge.
Well, no.
Definitely. That's when the downfall began. I would agree with that.
Dixie was in charge. The downfall sort of began in or around when she brought in Bischoff and Hogan. And it sort of kept going down from there, despite everything that happened. And, all that developed over the, losing the talents because the talents were getting disinterested. Then the sale to Fight Network and everything, where it sort of gutted the Fight Network. Quite a few things like live audio wrestling gone because the idea was that live audio wrestling become the Impact Wrestling sort of radio show. That never happened either. Whatever reason. And then the main fact is they're on I think it's the Pursuit channel now in America.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, America now, given that it's broadcast through Twitch, is more likely to watch it on Twitch than they are actually on a television station when it's a television program. And not many people watch it on Twitch, which is the major issue.
Yeah, I've been in there the last couple of days, and
because
maybe 125 in there.
Friday night when it actually airs on their stuff, which I think is it 10 or 11 Eastern, which again isn't great timing, which you'd have thought okay, that's the big thing is it's like on their own station, so why are they not doing a better job with it? The big thing as well, of course, though, is it's not going to get much of a casual audience on Twitch, because that means it's going like up against like Overwatch League and other sort of big esports events that happen practically on a weekly basis.
And games are always going to be more for Twitch than a TV show is.
Well, than wrestling. Wrestling does have a home. I've seen plenty of promotions. They don't get a lot of numbers, but in all honesty, some of them would get more eyes being able to stream it on Twitch than they would from the live event perspective, especially from sort of international people that may not even get a chance to see it, like me, because I don't have a passport. So it does help that I can, watch some wrestling from Texas or California or the Carolinas or anything. Good to have it there as an option for those that, maybe don't have the monetary value to be able to go to the shows and whatever. So yeah. In terms of other shows, which is where I need to go to Cage Match, because that will help me out. The other sort of big shows worth mentioning this weekend, this Friday, AIW is having its Gauntlet for the Gold show, which, as usual, has the Gauntlet for the Gold, which is basically their version of the Royal Rumble, where the winner goes on to face whoever their Absolute/World Champion is at their Absolution show in a few months. Although, I'd say the big match on that card is the returning M-Dog 20 Matt Cross versus the returning Josh Prohibition in a match that is literally 20 years old because they wrestled each other 20 years ago. Also, there's I think you'll like the title of this one, Billy. It's Pro Wrestling Eves. We're all going to die. The frantic scramble in search for meaning for a mess of meaty interaction, also known as the Chris Wolf Retirement Show. So yeah, Chris Wolf is basically getting her own show dedicated to her as she retires to life with her married partner and all that. We've also got Shikara's Fright Night, Pennsylvania, which has Dasher Hatfield defending his Grand Championship against Missile Assault Man. Still Life with Apricots and Pears defending the Young Lions Cup against Braden Lee. Princess Kimberly and the Whisper defending the Campeonatos de Parejas in the regular 2 out of 3 falls match as it is for the tag titles against Fist of Travis Huckabee and Tony Deppen. Along with Jakob Hammermeyer coming back to take on the Patriot. Randomly.
Patriot Del Wilkes?
And also, yes, Jakob Hammermeyer, who hasn't been in Chikara in years, coming back to take on the Patriot. And also, one worth noting, Cajun Crawdad, Calix the Castigator, El Hayo de Ice Cream, and Rory Gulak facing Fire Ant, Razorhawk Solo Darling, and the Hurricane Shane Helm in what I think is Hurricane's last match, maybe, because of his WWE commitments now. Or at least this is his last weekend, and so the match in Chikara is one of his last. And let's see if there's anything else. I scroll through the list. Actually, I don't think there's anything big mentioning. Oh yes, there is. Of course there is. On Fight TV and Honor Club, the NWA Ring of Honor Crop Up show that's happening on Saturday in Concord, Carolina. So, trying to think, I should probably go to the ROH website to get the up-to-date card for that one. especially because I can't see it on the website. Oh, it's not even on the website. That's handy. So the big one is Nick Aldis defending the NWA World Title against Marty Scurll. Whatever anything will happen from that, who knows? Also, Colt Cabana Willie Mack defending the NWA National Championship against Colt Cabana. And then with the Crockett Cup, it's the Briscoes taking on the Rock and Roll Express. Yes, that's actually happening. Still a better option than Enzo and Cass. Stuka Jr. and Guerrero Maya Jr. I think a CMLL. Taking on Flip Gordon and Bandido. Seems a pretty crazy tag team. And then Yuji Nagata and Satoshi Kojima facing Villain Enterprises of Brody King and PCO. Because it's PCO, people.
Gee, some of the videos I've seen with PCO are just left me wondering. That's all I'm going to say. It's just left me wondering.
Especially the latest one when he used his head to smash into a claw machine. And the really great thing is Estonian Super Thunder Frog decided to try and do the same, and he knocked himself out cold. We'll also have Allison Kay versus Santana Garrett for the vacant NWA Women's title that Jazz had to vacate due to personal reasons. And there's also going to be a wildcard battle royal to determine the final people in the tournament who are going to face Crimson and Jax Dane in the other part of the tournament. So yeah, just having a look at the details. The broadcast team will actually be Joe Galley and Jim Cornette. So it is going to be the NWA commentary. There's going to be no Ring of Honor commentary, even though Ring of Honor talents are making up quite a bit of it. However, apparently Midnight Express, Nikita Koloff, and Magnum TA will be appearing as well. So yeah, it's on pay-per-view TV, apparently. Wow, really? I guess no, because the UFC isn't a pay-per-view without a day. It's on Fight TV and Honor Club.
Yes.
Well, it is worth noting.
Keep it going.
Fight TV is charging Fight TV is charging $25. Fight TV is charging $25 for the NWA show. I think, and this is another reason why I think the Impact pay-per-view might struggle. I'm pretty sure they're charging at least around $40 for the pay-per-view. Which, in this day and age, it's honestly a case of... I might as well spread this to you, Days, to cover with Billy with his phone call. In this day and age of a network being $10 a month, if indeed you pay for it, is charging $40 for a pay-per-view on a digital platform worth it, or should they just cut the prices to actually get more people watching it if they want?
If you want more people to see your product, though, you got to cut prices. You can't compete with what the WWE is doing, what that Canelo pay-per-view broadcasting system that he releases doing. You can't have the $40 pay-per-view anymore. There's too many other venues you can go and watch something at a much cheaper price than expecting people to pay $40.
Yeah, I'm looking at Fight's website. The GCW show, it's happening within the next few hours, is about $11. The Crockett Cup is $25. Oh, that's interesting. Whether it's because I'm in the wrong region and it's region blocked, it looks as if the Impact show isn't actually on. I thought it was. Ooh, has something happened that I don't know? Uh-oh. Impact Wrestling. Please tell me, people.
Well, anyway, guys, it's now time to get into the week in review here on the podcast. I'm going to start with Monday Night Raw this past week. We opened up with Triple H and Seth Rollins.
I need to make a quick addendum.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, Impact Wrestling Rebellion is actually $20. They're not charging stupid prices for it.
That's much more reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to agree. On Monday Night Raw...
Maybe on traditional paper, $20.
Onto
Raw.
Yeah, onto Raw. Well, yes and no, and I'll explain in a bit. We opened up with Triple H and Seth Rollins talking about who's going to be the next challenger and the fact that there are going to be 2 triple threat matches. And out of those 2 matches, the winners of both of those matches would go to the main event of Raw that night to determine who would go on to Money in the Bank to face Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. And first, out came Samoa Joe, then it was Rey Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, The Miz, Baron Corbin, and AJ Styles. Basically, in essence, Ash, this was just...
And Uncle Tom Cobley and...
Okay. But,
it was like, Joseph Starling, come on down. Bob Barker, come on down. Jemima Puddle Duck, come on down.
What?
It just felt like, here's just an excuse to fill time, and here's this person, they're in a match. Here's this person, they're in a match. Any one of these 6 could do it if the price is right. It's
Yeah, it kind of felt like it was a waste of time they're doing, just to set up the 2 triple threat matches, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we started out with Rey Mysterio, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe, and I have to say, Days, what a good, strong opening match for Raw this past week, because I really enjoyed it.
I agree. I've always been a big fan of Rey and Samoa Joe and Too Bad himself. I enjoyed the match, and I didn't mind the outcome.
Yep, which was AJ Styles hitting the Styles Clash on Mysterio onto Joe, and AJ Styles picked up the win. Ash, was there any ever kind of report as to, we saw after the match was over, there was blood trickling down the face of Joe. Did we ever find out exactly what caused it?
No. Haven't even heard that he had a busted nose. So obviously something like that, it's only minor, and it was clearly nothing major that it led to sort of any sort of concussion issues or anything. So it wasn't as bad as the whole Nia punch on Becky from, last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next up, it was Naomi and Billie Kay. And remember how we talked about earlier in the show Sasha Banks not being happy with the way Vince and Bruce Pritchard and so on and so forth are handling women creatively with their product? You want to talk about a good example of that? Naomi and Billie Kay, not even a 5-minute match, not even a 3-minute match for that factor. You
gotta be joking.
Yeah, you want to evolve women's wrestling, and you talk about how women are becoming the standard bearer for wrestling in WWE. You want to talk about how you're pushing your product and pushing the women, and yet you're going to have a 1-minute match with Naomi and Billie Kay. Jesus freaking Christ, WWE. I just don't know what else to say other than I think right now, personally, in my opinion, Days, Sasha Banks is fully justified in sitting out her contract right now.
I mean, I don't disagree. It reminded me of years back in WWE.
The honest problem I have is if you look at the stuff that Billy and Peyton sort of do backstage, which is clearly way more loosely scripted, but everything that gets forced down your throat in terms of when they come out and do a promo, it is night and day difference. You know, they do a set that the match went 70 seconds, by the way. So I was right when we watched it live on Monday that I was pretty sure it was a minute, give or take. But you know, afterwards, Billy Kay's got all doing the whole "you gotta be joking me," because the SmackDown one relates to something else, but you know, the promo that they did backstage was sort of pretty awesome. But it's the Peyton Royce one that gets really good. We'll talk about that when we get to SmackDown.
Following that, we had our second triple threat match to determine who was going to the main event on Monday Night Raw that night to face AJ Styles. It was The Miz, Drew McIntyre, and Baron Corbin. And from the onset of the match, it almost felt like it was a 2-on-1 handicap match given Corbin and McIntyre's past history. But I want to say about 40% into the match, it kind of changed, and it became basically every man for himself. But I have to say, no matter where Baron Corbin goes, days, people just hate his guts.
Honestly, I think he does it to himself. Like, he completely bought into this new gimmick they gave him. And I don't personally like it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think they're doing with him. You know, for those of you who are new to the show and don't know a lot of the terms they're talking about, a heel is a person who is supposed to get fans to absolutely hate them. And to me right now, it's hard to argue the fact, actually, that Baron Corbin right now is doing his job as a heel and getting fans to hate him. But is he doing it too much that he's actually getting fans to turn away from the product?
I mean, maybe. Then again, it wasn't really him. He was seen as sort of the figurehead for doing it. In essence, it was whenever time he was in period, the writers and Vince thought it'd be funny for bloody Drake Maverick to mock piss on bloody Rude's coat in a toilet because toilet jokes. Even 10-year-olds are going, "That isn't funny, you senile prat."
Well, the finish of the match was Drew McIntyre hitting the Claymore kick on The Miz, but before he could make a cover, Corbin would come back into the ring, who was out of the ring at the time, to throw McIntyre to the outside and cover Miz. So Baron Corbin went on to the main event to face AJ Styles. Now, following that, Sami Zayn. Ever since Sami Zayn has made his return, what appears from his gimmick is he verbally berates the crowd over and over again. And something you said, Ashley, on the Monday Night Raw stream that we did on Twitch, you basically made a comparison to him and Daniel Bryan.
What was the comparison that I made?
About him like criticizing the fans for, I guess, critiquing what we're doing now, critiquing them in a sense, I believe.
True. Admittedly, Daniel's taking it more down the sort of ethical to some extent. But the issue I more have is the angle is this guy comes out, says, "I hate this town, I don't want to be here, go to hell." And it's like, wait, so this is a guy that's a wrestler that doesn't want to wrestle? Because it's not like he's actually wrestling on any of these shows so far, coming back just doing promos. I guess they're doing that rather than doing video promos and whatever.
Yeah, but that to me goes back into how their creative is just dropping the. Like, some of the storylines they're coming up with are just junk for today's wrestling.
But the problem with this is apparently they're giving Sammy more free reign to say whatever he wants.
And it's
the way he did that first promo was really good because it's not being backed up by him making fun of the fans for maybe still chanting for him when he's wrestling. There's nothing really for him to bounce off of. It's just him coming out, doing the thing. The really awkward thing is if, but problem is most of the people that go to television go because they want to be on telly rather than see a good show. Is if he did all the stuff and they didn't cheer or boo for him at all, they just did nothing. Then if Sammy had to do something to then actually get them riled up, that would be interesting. And I think he'd not cherish. What's the ish sound that I'm?
I think he would thrive in the heel role. I have no doubt about that.
He'd thrive at that.
But the
what
thing
he
is,
could capitalize on.
He needs to slow his roll and not push too far, or he's going to end up in that same category Baron Corbin's sitting in right now.
But the problem is they have to push it that far because I'm guessing that's what I would have thought he'd be a sensible person to put in Money in the Bank because he's got experience with ladders, or at least his brother from another mother, El Generico, has. They're not related, honest.
Well, following that, guys, we had Cedric Alexander taking on. Remember how I said there were a few people that were shifting between Raw and SmackDown? Here's another one, Cesaro. And I have to say, it was. Yep. So basically, I guess the bar is no more unless they put Sheamus on Monday Night Raw when he recovers from his injury, because he is from what I've heard, he's taking time off to, I guess, let his body recover because he's been working with injury for the longest time. So I don't blame him for WWE for actually telling him, hey, you know what, you're hurt, go take some time off, heal up, and then come back. Now, when he comes back, will they put him with Cesaro? I would think so, because to me, that's when he's been, I'm going to say his strongest or most relevant is when he's been with the bar. That's, I don't know if you guys would agree with that or not.
I mean, he had his moments when they had him in the title bit, but he's definitely, I would agree, he's had more success since the tag team.
My issue is, I know Cesaro. I know he's a great tag wrestler, wrestler. A certain Cassius Ohno, Chris Hero. So he's capable of doing both. He's had plenty of opportunities and had good runs, secondary titles. Never really got a chance with the Worlds on either brand. He was always considered not good enough for the brass ring. And it's like, well, he clearly is. It's just you want to push the same old instead.
Yeah, but you could have on the SmackDown brand. I think you could put him in a title picture. I don't think people would have not liked that.
That's where I lead, though. Apparently, despite the fact I'm pretty sure Cesaro and Daniel Bryan had got no. I guess the problem was they were both heels. So you can't really do it, but.
Well, anyway,
they worked good off each other.
Anyway, we had Cesaro taking on the former Cruiserweight champion in Cedric Alexander. Alexander, to me, has always been an impressive talent. We see what he can do on 205 Live. He's been an impressive Cruiserweight champion. Some of the spots he does are absolutely amazing. Even though we know a good friend of ours, Joseph Scoldren Knight, would call him, a spot monkey, but it still brings a wow factor. It still brings, to me, an entertaining factor. So I was really interested to see what they're going to be doing with Cedric Alexander. Now, on last week's Monday Night Raw with the Superstar Shakeup, essentially every person who was moved to Raw from another show won their match. Did that happen on Raw this week? No. Let me explain why. As the finish of the match, it was Alexander going for a springboard type of a maneuver, but Cesaro caught him with the Cesaro uppercut, essentially knocking Alexander out, and Cesaro picking up the win. And actually, I remember the first words out of your mouth when that finish happened, and the first word out of your mouth was buried.
Well, the problem is because it's Cesaro on Raw, maybe isn't, so bad. But then at the same time, it's like, oh, so he's 2-time champion and he's already in squad match. They didn't even do that with Ali.
No, they did not.
They tend to have a problem with doing that, though. That's how they ran Neville off.
Yeah. Sheamus. You were in a tag team. You want to leave. We're in 6 months. Which, considering how long you've been injured, we're turning into 6 years.
Well, up next, it was supposed to be the Lucha House Party taking on the War Raiders. I'm sorry, the Viking Experience. I'm sorry, the Viking Raiders. What the hell are WWE's doing with them now?
Oh, hang on, we need an update to this. Because the surveys that WWE put out, the Fan Nation things, whatever they call.
Yes.
They were asking people about their favorite superstar shake-up moves. One of which, for some reason, was the Singh going with Jinder. I was like, who would think that? But then it listed from NXT to Raw, the Viking Warriors.
What? Are you kidding me?
They might have changed their name 3 times in less than 2 weeks.
The Viking Warriors.
Well, any of those is better than the Viking Experience. It sounds like something straight out of a theme book.
Here's the problem, though, is I believe that's going to be the name of their new finishing move, which is that pop-up power slam they did, I believe, to Kalisto?
Yeah, the not fall out. Try fall out.
But calling a move that is better than naming them that, isn't it?
How are you doing, Never?
Maybe, but it just reminds us that it reminds us of that name.
Yeah.
Why don't they give it like a bloody, why don't they just call it like the Hammer of Odin or Valhalla? Oh, I guess because then people will look up on Valhalla as hell, and the advertisers will be that mad, and Mattel will be like, "Oh, you're advertising hell to people." Like,
what I fail to understand is what was so wrong with Hanson and Rowe of War Raiders. Fans knew them and associated them heavily in NXT as the War Raiders, Hanson and Rowe. I still, to this day, don't understand what the huge problem was with that name transitioning them to the main roster on Monday Night Raw. I still don't get it.
I would say the interesting thing is the crowd for that segment when they were beating up the Lucha House Party. They didn't give a shit. Because the majority of the people that watch Raw don't watch NXT.
And I've said it.
They're idiots.
And I keep
TLDR,
saying this.
They're idiots.
And I keep saying that I personally believe they're missing out. They are missing out on
Absolutely, they're missing out. NXT's putting out the far better in totality product.
You'll get no argument from me on that one. Up next, it was Becky Two Belts, a.k.a. Becky Lynch, for some odd reason, taking on Alicia Fox, who we all thought was gone from the company after her last little escapade that cost basically Arn Anderson his job. But apparently Alicia is still employed by WWE. How? I don't know, but somehow she's still there. But before the match, Becky would cut a promo about Lacey Evans and whatnot, and Lacey Evans would come out to respond. And I really kind of forget what they were talking about because, for the entirety of that process, I was staring at Lacey Evans' rack. I will freely admit that. But basically what it sounds like now is at Money in the Bank, the Raw Women's Championship will be on the line as Becky Lynch will be defending against Lacey Evans. And I think one of your worst fears right now, Ash, is from all of the rumors and all of everything that we heard about Vince putting so much stock behind Lacey Evans, Vince getting behind a woman superstar, go figure. You kind of fear that they're going to be putting the Raw Women's Championship on someone that you feel isn't ready?
Yeah, I just feel the deal with her is she's been brought up too early. She hasn't very got much experience at all in terms of NXT stuff. Some of the NXT matches she were having were pretty rough. And yet she's being pushed because she's got the muscular appearance and everything, which we know Vince is a big old fan for, among other things. And in all honesty, I feel there's better people that are still in NXT that are not being given the chance, and there's better people on the roster that deserve to be given more of a chance. You know, I think Sarah Logan and Ruby Riott are very good options, considering how they're not being used at all, it seems, at the minute, because of everything. Trying to think who else. Well, we learned from the match that Alicia Fox is on the verge of why are you here still?
I think she's been in that arena.
Yeah, well, she's been in that situation for a while, but the fact that, in all honesty, at some points I feel like with Sasha, she's degraded over time.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue
At certain points,
against
there was
that.
certain points when Alicia was sort of on the turn of like, okay, there's a point here where she might actually get there.
She did show a lot of improvement there for a short bit, but she reverted right back to not looking like she knew what the hell she was doing.
Yeah. And then, you know, considering what happened with your boy, Arn Anderson, of which, you know, it was Arn Anderson's fault as to why he let her wrestle drunk. But also, why did you show up drunk to a show?
And how did you keep your job after drunk to a show?
That is the $645,000 question.
Any other job, you show up intoxicated, your ass is gone. Plain and simple.
Considering how backstage politics used to work in the olden days, i.e. how Vince likes it today, oh, Me Too is going to have a fun day when they decide to actually go public on any of that crap. Whoa! Now, hot mess.
Speaking of hot messes, that's what this match was, basically, a hot mess for the most part. But the finish of the match was Becky locking the disarmer on Alicia to pick up the win, but immediately after that, seemingly out of nowhere, because we never saw her in any of the camera shots, Lacey Evans was in the ring and hit the woman's right, which was basically a punch, with her right hand on Becky, knocking her out. So I guess that's how the build they're going with Lacey Evans is. But you want to talk about coming up next, you want to talk about people reinventing themselves. First off, Bobby Roode is now known as Robert Roode. I don't have a problem with him being known as the glorious Robert Roode. I have no issues with that whatsoever. The issue I have is his 1970s Steve Rambo look-alike porn mustache.
Whoa!
Selig, Magnum TA, Rick Rude. I mean,
surely
you name
considering all the rumors today, why didn't you compare Rude to Joey Ryan?
I thought I'd go a little bit more classical.
Considering Joey Ryan has apparently been allegedly, according to rumors, had conversations with WWE. I will say I don't know what to think of this, because literally Joey Ryan tweeted, Has anybody heard any good rumors today?
Oh, God.
To me, it's the reincarnation of Rick, just spelt differently.
Yes, but in the same aspect, if it doesn't pan out, it's a slap in the face to Rick Rude's character. That whole gimmick.
Yeah, but I don't know if Robert Roode himself can actually pull off a ravishing Rick Rude style of a gimmick. You know, he's never really had that.
He's done the entrance with the robe and everything ever since he went single, like 6 or 7 years ago in TNA/Impact.
And he had the arrogance when he was still in TNA, when he was acting in the rich character, when he was the money, half of Beer Money before he left Beer Money. He has the arrogance to pull it off. I don't know. I think you could have just left well enough alone and left the character gone. And if you didn't put the mustache on his face like that, people probably wouldn't be comparing it to Rick. You add the mustache in, and the comparisons came flying.
Yeah.
But anyway, this was Robert Roode and Ricochet. I have to say, this was probably one of the better matches I've seen from Roode, and especially Ricochet on Monday Night Raw. I thought it was really good for what it was and what it had to deliver. And when you thought Ricochet was going to win because he attempted the 630, but he missed, Robert Roode would then counter by sending him into the corner and then hit the glorious DDT on Ricochet to pick up the win. So in essence, hey, make yourself look like Joey Ryan, a guy whose gimmick surrounds his penis, and you actually get a win on Monday Night Raw. I don't know if that's really strictly the case, but hey, you know.
He looked like, the problem is, you can't really say that because yes, he looked like Joey Ryan. Yes, he looked like Rick Rude. But yes, he looked like Magnum TA. Yes, he looked like Silas Young. He just like a guy like from the 80s, the typical sort of big old mustache sort of thing. Hell, even Jake the Snake had a big stash at some points.
Yeah, but he always kept the handlebars on his. He kept his running down the side of the. I'm just saying, I don't necessarily dislike the change. It just seems like they could have left the mustache out of the equation. That to me wouldn't have been a deal breaker for that whole gimmick.
And then, of course, up next to Monday Night Raw is when we had the debut of the Firefly Funhouse promo, and we already talked about that earlier in the show, so we're going to go right on to the main event of AJ Styles and Baron Corbin. Now, this, in my personal opinion, was a main event that they needed to deliver on. WWE needs to start delivering on some of their more main event products and what they're doing with the storyline. And to a degree, I did enjoy the match because I felt like it did what it needed to do in terms of telling the story of not only AJ Styles, but of Baron Corbin of the night, and also setting up now, you know, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, the finish of the match. It was AJ Styles hitting the phenomenal forearm on Baron Corbin to pick up the win, but now also setting up the story of AJ Styles and Seth Rollins for Money in the Bank for the Universal Championship. And one thing I did say on the Monday stream, and I'm still going to stick by it, actually, what I said, is to me personally, AJ Styles and Seth Rollins, dream match. I mean, 5-star. Any pay-per-view, any show you go, if they're main eventing a show with Rollins and AJ Styles, I'm buying.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be a good it's gonna be a good match, I'd hope. They could probably deliver a classic, you know, as long as they ask Triple H, can we do this indie? Or do we have to do this WWE? They are allowed to do a little bit of indie style here and there. They be sorted.
But
they're both definitely high caliber to put on a great show. I would expect a great match from both of them.
So that's basically Monday Night Raw in a nutshell. I gotta say, I thought the show was, good at various points. I did enjoy both the triple threat matches. I thought it was really good. Sami Zayn, I'm really interested to see where they go next, or are they going to have him continually berating the crowd? And if so, where are they going to take Sami Zayn, and who are they going to have him face eventually when it comes to fruition with this new gimmick that they're doing with him? Viking Warrior, right now they're known as Viking Warriors. Who knows what name they're going to have on Raw this coming Monday? You never know. I got to say, Robert Roode and Ricochet were really good. If I have to go best match of the night, surprisingly, I'm going to say Miz, Drew McIntyre, and Baron Corbin. Because to me, they were pulling out all the stops. Miz was doing things like springboard maneuvers. He was doing dives to the outside, stuff you don't normally see Miz accustomed to doing in his matches, and he was doing them really well. McIntyre, always on fire, always great. Corbin, he's good for what he's doing, and the fact that he can also get the crowd to hate him as well is a plus in my book. So I feel that if I were to say best match of the night, I have to go Miz, Drew McIntyre, and Baron Corbin, with the other triple threat match being a close second. So if I were to grade Monday Night Raw and give it a score, I'm going to say 3 out of 5. I thought it was that good of a show that it deserved a 3 out of 5. Ashley, what do you think? What's your overall score, and what's your pick for best match of the night?
I'll say the same on the score. Although I'd say match of the night was actually the first one. Joe, AJ, and Joe, Mysterio,
and AJ. You were right the first time.
Yeah. I'd say that was the better one, just because when you think about it, the last time we saw Miz, what was he doing? He was fighting 3-on-1 against Sanity. So what changed?
That's a good question. Days, over to you, your score and your pick for best match of the night.
I mean, I'd say 3 out of 5, and I'd have to concur with what you said. The Corbin AJ triple threat, I like that one.
Now, as we transition to SmackDown Live, how would they answer? What would they do this week? I mean, one of the big things that was talked about going into SmackDown Live this week was the fact that Roman Reigns Superman punched Vince McMahon, so what would be, the consequences of that? And it turned out to be Shane McMahon, first off, calling out Roman Reigns. Apparently he made a big deal of him attacking his father. If you remember, not too long ago, Shane was attacking Miz's father. Hello?
Yeah.
Irony there.
Hypocrite.
Can you imagine what it's like to attack one of the faces of Mount Mushmore?
I still can't believe he got a... Were we the only ones who actually noticed that? Or please tell me that actually got trending on...
No, everybody. Nearly everybody picked up on that flub.
Well, anyway, Shane was distracting Roman while they were in the ring, and out would come Elias, who was also involved and got speared by Roman Reigns the previous week on SmackDown to basically do a 2-on-1 beatdown, which would then lead to eventually, and later on in the evening, Elias in his own special way in a song backstage challenging Roman Reigns to a match at Money in the Bank, to which Roman would later on accept. So that's basically how we would start out SmackDown Live this past week. But an opening match, Finn Balor and Andrade. I have to say, I loved it. I thought Balor and Andrade really sold it. They really brought and did what they needed to do in this match. And I'd say,
yes.
Wait, hold on.
Yes. Yes. Yes! Yes! Yes!
On the Twitch side of things, ladies and gentlemen, never forget
Yes! Yes! Yes!
You know what that means, right?
Yes, I do.
Yes! Yes!
Okay, I'm just making sure you remember what you said.
Yeah,
Just making sure.
on the Discord server,
Yes! Yes! Yes!
as we're hearing this,
Yes!
I made a bold proclamation that if we were to get 3 subscribers on this stream, which is basically on April 25th right now, that I would return to my playthrough of Resident Evil 2. And thanks to my mod, Never Forget Your Past, it's going to be happening tomorrow. Tomorrow, that will be the game tomorrow morning. Resident Evil 2 will be coming back to the channel. So if you guys want to check me out and hear me scream like a little girl, you be sure you're here on the Twitch channel tomorrow, and eventually it will be going up on YouTube as well. But anyway, back to SmackDown Live, back to Finn Balor and Andrade. It looked like at various points in this match that it was going to be Andrade going over on Balor, and at that point, to me, actually, it would appear that they were going to probably push Andrade towards the Intercontinental Championship. Now, he didn't win the match, as the finish was Balor hitting the coup de grace, or the coup de grace, as you say, on Andrade to pick up the win. But do you kind of see them still doing it, though? Do you still kind of see them pushing Andrade towards a run at the Intercontinental Championship?
Well, for me, the angle you could easily pull it down is, oh, look, he's won one match and he's won the other. Why don't we have a 2 out of 3 falls with the title being on the line? And then, of course, you can have shenanigans and whatever that lead to the title changing hands if you wanted to. Or, you could just be boring.
Never in the Twitch chat just said she has tons of bits. Oh, she still has over 3,000. That leaves me a little bit perturbed as to what might be coming my way tomorrow with the Resident Evil 2 gameplay.
Get down with the sickness.
But anyway, Daze, do you think it's out of the realm of possibility that they could, if they do a match at Money in the Bank? We don't know for sure yet if they're doing a match between Balor and Andrade at Money in the Bank for the Intercontinental title. But if they do it, I said that do. Yeah, do. Surprised that somebody actually giggled on that. Do you feel it's out of the realm of possibility that they could put the Intercontinental title on Andrade?
They could, but I don't think it would be the right. I think they've put Finn Balor on the back burner. It's time to put him out there and let him shine. I mean, now if you want to continue the feud between them a little longer and eventually give him the belt, but don't give it to, I don't think they should at Money in the Bank.
Well, then following that, we had probably, and I'm going to say this right now, whenever I see them on SmackDown Live, it's instantly my best moment, match of the night. I don't care what else happens on the show. It's Paige with her new tag team of Asuka and Kairi Sane, as Kairi, the Pirate Princess, was going to go one-on-one with Peyton Royce. And we have to basically harken back to what we said, not only for Monday Night Raw, but earlier on in the show, when we were talking about women's wrestling. And this is just another sad example of what they're doing. Now, am I sad that Sane got the win with the insane elbow on Peyton Royce? No. But am I sad that this was a less than a 3-minute match? Yeah. Because you're not giving your your female talent, in my personal opinion, enough time to actually tell a good story inside the ring.
There's no time to build any kind of suspense.
Yeah, and they didn't give it for Naomi and Billie Kay, and they didn't give it.
That's interesting.
Why do you?
Apparently, the match went 90 seconds. I thought it went longer than 90 seconds. It felt longer than 90 seconds.
Then, of course, now they're also... Go ahead.
The big thing that I would say that needs to come out of this one, though, is the whole... Which I didn't get at the time, was the whole Peyton Royce going, I was dehydrated last week, so this time I've drunk a whole gallon of water. And I'm like, well, is that a wise move? And when they did the backstage stuff, it was the whole, you gotta be joking me, again from Billy, but it was all like, perhaps, I drank too much. And they were sort of making jokes like that. Again, the sort of bad jokes, but actually in a more humorous way than when they do it when they came out for their promo. And then the best bit is, it's like, let's go. And the reporter's like, if you need to go to the toilet that's actually that way, they go in, like, well, you're not allowed in here because you're not a woman, mate. And they go in. And they come out after about 5 seconds. And the reporter's like, wow. That was pretty fast, wasn't it? And they were just like, one thing we're good at as a team is evacuating our fluids. And,
oh,
yes!
God.
No, but it was like stuff that was actually funny because it felt natural and everything.
Oh my! I'm gonna have to watch the video of that.
I'm trying to get the quote off the thing.
No, as Ashley does that, we're going to very briefly discuss what happened next. And it was supposed to be Jinder Mahal, the newest edition of SmackDown Live, with the Singh brothers taking on Chad Gable. The match never happens, as Gable would get attacked by the freak Lars Sullivan, who would go on to not only destroy the Singh brothers, but R-Truth came out wanting to get a measure of revenge for what happened last week when Lars attacked him, and basically would end up once again getting destroyed, and once again Lars Sullivan appearing to be this unstoppable monster on SmackDown Live. And I guess maybe Dave's the only thing you could really say is, the old Goldberg line. Who's next?
I'm still trying to figure out where exactly they're that storyline. Like, they haven't done anything but had the guy come out and just demolish people. Like, it's not bad. I mean, I don't dislike it, but I'm still curious to see where it's going to go.
Ashley, have you found the quote yet, or do you want us to go on?
The problem is it's on Twitter, so I've got to find the bloody tweets regarding it, which is a minefield.
Well, following that...
There it is.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, no, I actually found it. Thanks, Cage Side Seats. If there's one thing you need to know, it's that we can both go to the bathroom very quickly. That was the line. It was just like, yes! I don't even care. That's a funny-ass line. Just... whatever it is that they do in terms of the WWE.com stuff, as to whether it's just they're allowed to come up with their own ideas with a sort of loose script to convey a certain feeling and something, they feel much better written than anything that gets presented just on television. Which is why I think people get turned off by the television, because they see the good stuff when they do the promos on YouTube and that. And then when they see them come out with hokey language on television, they're like, oh, well, could have just watched that online for free rather than best. So, it's that sort of deal.
Well, up next on SmackDown Live, it was a face-to-face confrontation with Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. And the way it appeared, it looked like we were going to, once again, for the umpteenth time, get Charlotte and Becky in a match. But out would come Bayley, of all people, who, to me, kind of felt like she was forcing her promo a little bit. She didn't really deliver it like I felt like she could. You know, the delivery could have been just a tad bit better in the promo. But basically come out to confront Charlotte and say, hey, let's have a match. And the winner will go on to face Becky for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And they would end up having their match. It was, for what it was, Charlotte and Bayley was, to me, a good match. And you would think that, you know, you would like to see a change in the direction of what they're doing with their women when it comes to creative. But would we get that change? Absolutely not. Because the finish of the match was Charlotte Flair hitting the spear on Bayley to pick up the win. So once again, we're going to get another match with Becky and Charlotte. And the only thing I can say about this actually is, when is enough enough? When are we going to start seeing something new when it comes to creative instead of the same old thing over and over and over again?
And to think this wouldn't have happened if the original finish to WrestleMania of Charlotte making or being made to tap out the disarmer had happened. A botch has led to part 75,864.6 reoccurring of their feud. However, I'm thinking that this is the blow-off, and that somebody else is going to have to challenge after this. They have to build up somebody, though. And I'm thinking they might go down. I'd like to see Sonya actually get an opportunity. Just to see if she actually can bring it in terms of matches. The thing that complicates this is obviously the tag division as to, you know, the tag teams that are already established. What you do with that. But, okay.
And I think the main question on everyone's mind, Days, is, do Charlotte's boobs get bigger every time we see them?
I mean, she might have a little push-up bra in there after she got them done.
And
Could be inflating them.
Is that anatomically possible? Anyway, the main event of SmackDown Live this week was Kofi Kingston taking on Shinsuke Nakamura, with Rusev and Lana at ringside for Nakamura, and with Kevin Owens, a.k.a. Big O, and Xavier Woods on their own brand of commentary. And I have to say, at that point, Tuesday night, we kind of had to let Kevin and Xavier kind of do the commentary instead of us, because I have to say, for some of the things they did was really, really good.
Well, when you've got somebody that knows the wrestling business in and out like those two, especially if you've seen any of Kevin's stuff that he's done in PWG, that's sort of his dream. All we were missing was Excalibur going, unbelievable. But instead, when the turn happens, the commentators are not allowed to say anything or convey emotion. Even like, what a dastardly thing, is just.
And with me having 11 years commentator experience here in Louisiana, I don't agree with that move. I don't agree with them not allowing the commentators to verbally express their emotions of a turn when it happens. And the turn we're talking about is when Kevin Owens turned on the New Day. It turned on Kingston and Xavier Woods after the match was over. And to me, that really takes away from the turn, in a sense, because you can have the commentators expressing anger, anxiety, anguish for Kofi, and anger towards Kevin Owens for doing a dastardly turn and attacking Kingston and Xavier Woods after the match was over. And we were going into this main event thinking, who's going to be the next guy that they push towards the WWE Championship, or at least a run at the WWE Championship. And we basically were drawing a blank, and we kept wondering, what are they doing with Kevin Owens? Why did they have him with the New Day? Oh, yeah, that's to do a big heel turn and go after Kingston and go after the WWE Championship once again. And I have to say, a good move, a smart move, and probably right now, actually, I would think right now, Kevin Owens would be basically the only guy that you could possibly think of right now to push for a run at the WWE Championship.
It seems like it, yeah. It honestly seems like it. I thought it was inevitably going to be happening, considering the details about the situation regarding Brian and all that. So, are you excited? And stuff.
And of course, we would end the show with Owens power bombing Xavier Woods against the ring apron, and lo and behold, we would see, for the first time ever on WWE programming, in a business suit, as one of the backstage guys, Sanjay Dutt. And I have to say, he cleaned up pretty good. He cleaned up pretty good and looked pretty good in the suit, but I have to say right now, SmackDown delivered on what they needed to do. I like the timing of the turn. They timed it just right. Kevin Owens right now is the guy that they needed to use. They needed to turn him heel, and have him run against Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. To me, they applied that perfectly.
Yeah, I like the move. I like the heel turn. And I definitely think he'd be a good matchup against Kofi.
Yep, so my score for SmackDown Live is going to be a 3.5 out of 5. There were some parts where blah, like once again Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch for the 890th time in WWE, and that's not counting the NXT encounters. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I think you guys kind of know what my pick is for best moment or match of the night. But Ashley, what would you score SmackDown Live, and what would your pick be for best match or moment of the night?
I'd say 4. And in terms of match, I guess Balor and Andrade.
Took the words right out of my mouth. That was my favorite match of the show by Balor and Andrade.
Although I'd also say full credit to Kofi and Nakamura. They put on a good thing.
It's just the whole show, minus a few bits and pieces throughout the show, it was overall a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was.
It shows you that you can have 4 matches on a 2-hour show and it still feels fine.
Yeah, as long as everything in between isn't total trash.
Oh God, Lars Sullivan.
Well, on 205 Live this week, we had a couple of matches that we're going to quickly mention here because we're coming across the end of the podcast this week. Humberto Carrillo defeated Drew Gulak, and Arya Daivari defeated Oni Lorcan. So, who's going to be challenging Tony Nese for the Cruiserweight Championship? Right, Daivari.
I think that was officially designated a number 1 contenders match. The one with Daivari and Law. So Daivari and Nese, I'm guessing, is Money in the Bank pre-show, because it's always a pre-show. Damn it!
They for sure need to give them guys more TV time instead of designating them pre-show.
Now, when it comes to NXT, there are a lot of problems with the Undisputed Era, especially when it comes to them and Roderick Strong. And if you need any like point of reference, look at what happened at NXT TakeOver. Now, as far as NXT this week, we had a lot of matches. We had Humberto Carrillo and Jackson Ryder, which apparently ended in chaos. Candice LeRae and Casey Catanzaro, say that 5 times fast, defeated Aaliyah and Vanessa Bourne. Shayna Baszler, Jessamine Duke, and Marina Shafir ambushed Io Shirai. I'm sorry, Shafir?
Shafir, yeah.
So, ambushed Io Shirai, so I'm going to say shame. You get the finger of shame! And for some reason, Cassius Ohno is lobbying to be Kushida's first opponent in NXT. And
yeah,
the Viking Raiders, again, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that name.
No, it's NXT. They're called the War Raiders.
Defeated the Street Profits to retain, not retain, but to win the match. So, again, you're moving them to the main roster, but you're keeping your NXT gold on them. Does that really make sense? No. And then
the really confusing thing is their faces in NXT,
but
their heels on the main roster. How the shit do you promote the next NXT TakeOver if it happens in June? Who knows if it is, though, considering, all the cancellations because of Saudi.
And over in the Twitch chat, AZ is in chat. AZ, why do you have a different name now? But anyway, and apparently Roderick Strong wanted to prove himself to the Undisputed Era by defeating Johnny Gargano. However, that did not happen as the NXT champion came out victorious on that. So again, more dissension in the ranks when it comes to Roderick Strong and the Undisputed Era. So that, to me right now, guys, is going to be it for the podcast this week. Next week, we plan on being live on StackUp.org at 1 p.m. Central Time. I'm sorry?
I just said the dot, just for a random reason.
And by the way, guys, if you are watching this on YouTube, the link will be in the description box below. So in case you guys want to join us live for the podcast on StackUp.org, be sure you join. You can join us there for that. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure you hit that subscribe button. Ashley, anything coming up you want to talk about before we go?
Honesty, no. Yeah. First episode back. Weird.
Yeah.
But it was a good weird.
Yep, and of course, thank you to Days for joining us. Days, it's been a great pleasure having you. Hopefully, we can have you back here again next week for more of WrestleDOWN.
I'd enjoy that, and I appreciate the invite.
So, thank you to everyone who's been in the Twitch chat live for this one. Thank you to Never for the 3 subs. Thank you to Werevant Bros. Thank you to John. Thank you to everyone who was lurking here for the podcast. And for those of you out there who are watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for subscribing to WGS-TV. And don't forget, we're going to have more gameplays coming up soon. Not to mention the fact that due to me opening up my big fat mouth, on tomorrow's Twitch stream, Resident Evil 2 will be making a comeback. But anyway, guys, be sure you join us again, like I said, every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time on twitch.tv/stackup.org for the live version of the podcast. And we will be, of course, as always, putting the archives here up on YouTube as well. So with that being said, with my thanks to the Studley Man, Ashley, and Days, I'm your friendly neighborhood Wrestle Gamer, reminding all of you guys out there to just stay awesome. Bye, guys!